Okay, for anyone that attends, we want you to know that you're loved beyond limits. But limitless justice advocation is not like normal things that you see. We're here to bring real situations into the light, and we're here to seek justice. But justice is more than just a verdict in the courtroom or a punch in the face on the street. It comes with mercy. It comes with responsibility. It comes with communication. So today, we're going to be with Melinda Marcum. And in February 2021, her daughter was murdered by a coward. As Kimberly was walking down the street with renewed hope and faith, a gentleman followed her down an alley, came down in broad daylight in the middle of the street, and shot her to her. We're going to discuss this situation with the mother as she advocates for justice, and we stand with the family and the community, the friends, the family. But be mindful. These are real people with real situations. We want justice, and we want it now. And Melinda, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
Just I'm here to advocate for my daughter and give her voice since she doesn't have one anymore.
Right, because her voice was taken.
Yeah, definitely.
So right now, we're gonna roll right into it, okay, darling? So if you give me a second, I know this is gonna be difficult, Melinda, but we're gonna roll the video. So viewer discretion is advised. We're gonna show you the homicide. We have the footage that was released publicly, and we're gonna just walk through this situation from a mother's shoes and what she's experienced and what their family has experienced. But to do justice is to love kindness. So if you know something, say something. Don't be a coward. Now, we love you, Kimberly, so we stand with the family. Give me a second. We're going to bring up this video. And so this is Kimberly. Ladies and gentlemen. And this is the coward.
I'm sorry, it never gets any easier to see my daughter be murdered. And I bet I've watched that video a million times trying to figure out if I know the person or just why. And it just never gets easier. It breaks my heart every time. Sorry. I can't fall apart. If I fall apart, then she's not going to be heard. So I'm going to try to get myself back together here. Excuse me. the night I found out that Kimberly had been murdered, it was a night like any other night. We're sitting at home with my family. We live in Chillicothe. And my cousin John, he calls me and tells me that he thinks Kimberly had been shot. His friend had called him and thought Kimberly had been shot. When John called, I didn't expect that to be what he said, because usually, he doesn't call me unless there's an emergency, and I thought maybe it might have been his dad. And from there, it's a blur,
I'm here with you. Okay?
Yeah. And from there, it was a blur. I know I just kept praying to God. I said, please don't let this be true. Don't let that be my daughter. If it is true, please take mine instead. Take my life instead of hers. Because that's the first thing any mother wants, that they would do anything to keep their child from being in pain. And so I'm in Chillicothe, and where we live, if the water's up any, we can't get across our driveway. And the water was up a little bit, so I'm sitting there, and the whole family's in panic, and we keep getting phone calls that, she was shot, not that she was dead. She was shot. So it took us about 30 minutes to try to get across the way. And me, my daughter, my son, my mother, and stepfather. My stepfather drove us, and the whole way there, we just kept getting phone calls and phone calls. And my brother, he's on the streets. I'm really close with Kimberly. He calls me, and I could tell when he was crying, because he's really not that person. He doesn't cry. And he said, sister. And when he said sister, I knew then that my baby was dead. And that was the longest drive. We got here in Columbus in about an hour. It usually takes about an hour and a half, but we got here in about an hour. And that was the longest hour of my life. And for some reason, I just thought she was waiting there in the street. It just didn't click with me that she was in a hospital being worked on.
Okay.
And when I get there, I'm just empty. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to feel. I just feel lost. And no mother, not even I wouldn't wish this, not even on the person who shot my daughter. I would not wish this on his mother, to feel that loss. The loss that a part of you is missing, and it won't come back. That was when I first found out what happened.
Melinda, so what have witnesses said?
The witnesses, there's no one really coming forward. I know there were witnesses.
Right.
People are afraid, but from what I understand from the neighborhood, there was a murder a few weeks prior to Kimberly's.
Okay.
And the person that shot her thought it was the girl that witnessed the murder 2 weeks prior. And this is just from, what we could gather, and no one, and again, there's no witnesses to that murder that anyone's going to come forward. Everyone's afraid.
Right.
And there's the police has got ways to keep people from being hurt if they come forward,
Right.
So the thing is there's witnesses, there's people who knows what happened, but are afraid and don't know what to do about, being retaliated against.
Right.
So basically what I do know is that she was just minding her business. Like, she didn't even have any clue at all that this was coming.
Right. And
no one could warn her, and that's all I know about that time,
So Melinda, I know this is difficult, and I want to thank you for the courage that you're showing, for the strength that you're showing, and you're leading the way for other mothers and fathers and family members and friends and communities to step forward. So I want to thank you for being courageous. And I'm sorry I'm not there to wipe your tears, but I'm with you. And so is the entire wolf pack. So we'll be looking out for your family, into the situation and the evidence, and talking to the people on the street level. But while we're here today together, let's talk about what type of person Kimberly was to you as a mother, to her friends, to her family. There's no such thing as a perfect person, but give us an example, a character witness, if you will.
Kimberly was the funniest person. Like, she really was a natural born comedian. Her whole life, she was a singer. Like, when she was a little girl, she was a singer. She sang the national anthem when she was 13 for Barack Obama when he was in Columbus at the State House. She wore high heels for the first time that day, and she accidentally tripped and she fell into the people that were standing beside Barack, and she started crying and kind of laughing a little bit. I'm like, "What did you do?" She said, "Well, I fell into that old guy," and I looked, and the old guy was Buzz Aldrin. You know, she was just that guy. Like when she was 3 years old, she first started going to preschool, and this is her personality. You know, she was fearless in a lot of ways. She goes into the door, she opens up the door and was like, "Ta-da, I'm here." Most kids are afraid to be away from mom, but Kimberly was her own free spirit, her own person at a very young age. You know, she was my mom's everything, my mom's baby.
She was your everything.
She was. She definitely was. You know, Kimberly just would like make up little raps and little songs. Even on your worst day, she can make you feel some kind of joy. You know, she was a very joyful person. Even through the things and the pain that she was going through, she tried to make sure everyone around her was happy. You know?
Yeah.
That was Kimberly.
Let me ask.
She's crazy.
Yeah. She sounds like an incredible person, just like yourself, Mom.
Yeah. It's an incredible loss. It's an incredible loss to this world. And anyone who didn't know her was lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're seeking justice with you, and we're standing in unity with you as well. So I want you to know that. And there are people that will say, let's just strike that. How do you feel about procedures by the police and detectives? How have they been treating you? What's transpired since the day of the incident?
Detective Kelly honestly has been in contact with me pretty frequently. There was a time, a few weeks, that he hadn't got back in touch with me, but as soon as he was able and had some new information, he did. I'll give him that.
And we talked in that time period, right? We talked in that downtime, correct?
Yes, we talked in that downtime.
And he found out that
they should have. I think they should have released the video sooner, but I also understand why they didn't, because it was rough for me to see. You know,
Well, you asked,
and I guess today, as of today, he's also going to be handing out flyers so that people knows that there's, Crime Stopper reward and things of that nature. So, I mean, at this point,
to the public, there is a Crime Stopper reward. Now, going back to the conversation of that 2-week lapse, and communication, that's when we got contact with one another. And pretty much, therefore, immediately the detective reached out to you, right?
Yeah. He reached out to. I called him and told him that we was going to do this interview, and I didn't want to say anything that could jeopardize the the case,
Investigation.
period. I mean, because I don't want to leak any information that doesn't need to be.
Straight up.
To be honest. And then he got back in touch with me, and he said, "Yeah, do the interview. Let us release the video." And then that's when we got back in touch with each other, and.
But they wouldn't release the video to you. In fact, they released it to the mainstream media, who ran the story without even talking to you directly. Is that accurate?
No. They talked to me and told me that they was going to do that.
Good.
I was just, I just thought it was just going to be the steals. I didn't know it was going to be the full video. Right. I was pretty shocked by that.
Yeah.
But now in hindsight, I kind of think that it was the right move to do, because those steel frames aren't going to get how severe and how callous and how cowardice this person was. Yeah. He didn't even look my child in the face. He just assumed it was someone else and shot like it. And it wouldn't matter if it was my child or anybody's child. He didn't have any care in the world that it was a life he was taking.
Right.
You know.
None.
So yeah, I get the. I wish the video had been out sooner, and I'm glad that it came out when it did. You know, that it's
absolutely.
Now finally out for the world to see.
And I agree with you. Justice needs to be swift. Now, the mainstream media released the video with the police as well. Did they ever reach out to you directly, or did they just run it?
No. I would think that maybe, they would want to interview the mother and see how things were, but no, they didn't. The news media didn't pick this up hardly at all.
They just ran the story.
It was a blip.
Yeah.
It was a blip on TV, and that was it.
A 2-second blip, if you will. Never reached out to the family to get their feelings or to help. The voice of the people is something that we take very seriously, and that's why we do what we do. And if you don't like it, change the channel. But we're not going anywhere, and we stand with families that are mourning and seeking justice, and that's why we do what we do. And so we released the video. So if you're watching this, please share it. If you know something, say something for the mother and the family. And we're not here to hate on anyone. In fact, we're here to pick up where the limitations are leaving off. And that's why we're limitless together. Now, Melinda, how old was your daughter?
She was 27 years old. She just turned 27 on the 6th. Yeah.
And the date of this incident, please. What was it?
I'm sorry?
Was the date of this incident February 25th?
Yes. Yeah.
2021.
Yeah. Yes.
What would you like to say to everyone out there?
My daughter wasn't perfect. We're not perfect. She didn't deserve to die like this.
Yeah.
Her son should have had the opportunity to know her. Her death is senseless. And not only was her death senseless, the deaths before that was senseless. The only way to stop these things from happening again is to come forward and be strong and be brave and testify and tell the detectives and the people who can help me who did this. You know who did this. You have the information. You can stop all of this hurt, all of this from this one person. You can just one person has to be brave. That's it. And you can be. You can be. Only if it's not for my daughter's sake or for the family's sake that was before, but for your sake, because it could be your child at any given time down there, any time, because he didn't care to do it in broad open daylight, take my baby's life. It didn't belong to him. He took it.
Right.
And he can do the same thing to you guys, only if you allow him to stay on this street.
Right. People know on the block what happened. And it's, according to some people in the community, attached to another homicide. And that's why justice needs to be swift. We can't wait 3 months. That dude could be across the world. Justice needs to be swift, and we need to be mindful that society is a product of our thinking and cannot be changed without it. This video, I agree with you. It should have been released immediately. It should have been released immediately, no matter how you look at it. Now, you said that Kimberly wasn't a perfect person. Why do you think it's important to say that?
Well, my daughter, let me start. She was bipolar. She was. So we butted heads a lot. We did. Didn't mean we didn't love each other. We just butted heads. So my husband, I got married when I was 40, and my family that was closest my family had been in a long time. And 13 days after we got married, he died, which kind of spent, everyone in you send everybody in a spiral downward. And I was going through my own issues of losing my husband. And I missed the signs. Kimberly got hooked up with the wrong people, ended up doing drugs, ended up getting hooked on drugs. And eventually ended up on the streets,
Right.
and all that pertains. She wasn't perfect. She's been arrested for prostitution. She's been arrested for petty theft. She's been, these are the things that Kimberly has done. That's not who Kimberly is. The last 5 years of Kimberly's life did not define her. It was just a part of what happened to her, what happened in her life. She called my son-in-law about 2 months before she died. And she said, and his name's Spud. She said, Spud, I'm sick of living like this, and I want to come home, but I don't want to come home dirty. I want to come home clean. I don't want to be sick around my baby. I want everything to be right when I get there.
Right.
So I don't know how she ended up, but she ended up in this church. And they baptized her. She asked the Lord for her forgiveness, and they baptized her. So, and she still struggled with her addictions. She did.
Right.
So she went to the day of her death, she went to my Uncle Andy, who just recently found the Lord himself.
Awesome.
And she cried, and she said, Uncle Andy, I've been messing up, and I'm getting back to where I was, and I'm trying. He said, all you have to do is get on your knees and ask the Lord for forgiveness, and he'll forgive you. This is like 2 hours before her death. So she got down on her knees and she prayed. And, when I got the coroner's report, they said, well, your daughter had drugs in her system and this, that, and that, which I did. She did. But I also know all the drugs she used to take. And just to find that level and those 2 things in her system I knew she was progressing. She was trying to come home. I know she was. I know that she's in heaven right now. I know it. She, like I said, she wasn't perfect. I failed her. The system failed her. Somebody could have been there to save her and wasn't. She was, like I said, she's been in jail a few times. I didn't understand why there's programs that you can automatically, if you've been in abandoned houses and been arrested for it so many times and you've been arrested for drug possession and prostitution, you obviously have a drug problem and you're homeless. Why isn't there a system that would say, okay, after the second, third time, you're going to this program? I don't understand why there isn't something set up for people like that.
Rather than
so they can get home to their kids sooner,
Right. Rather than just jailing someone and releasing them right back onto the streets, right?
Yeah. Her intentions was every time she went to jail.
Criminals. Our society is making criminals of people that are suffering and needing change. And that's something that we need to be mindful of. Nobody
wakes up.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be a drug addict. No one does that. It starts out, let's all have fun. Let's party together. Let's try this. And then it chemically messes with your brain and you're craving that substance, you know? This could happen to not only the people in the South End or the West Side, or this can happen to anyone.
No one's
Anybody.
safe from addiction. No one is safe from the streets or drugs. And the streets, they
And
have no
right,
name.
and with that being said, we know that this is a problem. We already see that this is, but there's no structure that I know of to catch a person when they fall like that.
Right.
It's easier to put them in jail, keep them for 2 or 3 weeks, and then release them on their own recognizance, instead of, hey, 3 weeks of this program or 3 months of this program, or you'll be a criminal. I can understand that.
Or they could be given,
but don't make them a criminal right off rip.
Right. They become a criminal right off the rip, and then they go right back to the streets. And by the time they get there, they have even less by the time they were there. So if they weren't homeless, they're quickly homeless. And they're quickly seeking ways to fit in or escape from their reality. So if drugs are already involved, we are taking a hopeless situation to an even deeper
and making it more hopeless. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you said something that I want other people to be mindful of, and I think it's really beautiful. The day of Kimberly's homicide, you know, she was already having a change of heart. Kimberly has a son. What's her son's name? How old is he?
Liam. He's 8 years old. Yeah.
My son's name is Liam, and he is also 8.
Yeah.
I love you. And I hope that anybody watching this takes it seriously and steps up for the cash reward. You want that money? Step up, honey. That's the truth. And we're asking for people to step up. But I'm going to go back to what I was getting into with you, okay? And I think it's something very beautiful, even in the midst of this despair. Kimberly was changing. Her heart was evolving. She was coming closer to her Father in heaven, her Creator. And she knew she was struggling. She wanted change. And she was making those steps. The day of the murder, you said she went to her uncle's. Let's talk about that situation and how beautiful it really is.
Somehow, her and her uncle had a falling out a few weeks prior. They had a real bad falling out, which led my uncle to go to church. And in return, he forgave Kimberly, and they forgave each other, and she ended up going to church. You know, they found God through a realization that they don't want to be the people they were, to each other or to anyone else. They found that within themselves and within God, and we're close. You know, I don't really know, because like I said, I live in Chillicothe, and on the streets you don't call home often. You know, I'm getting from word of mouth and from other people, but Kimberly went from like 98 pounds in a few months. She went from 98 pounds to 173 when she died. That showed me right there that she was not on the same drugs. I'm not on the same path that she was on.
Right.
Before.
She was making a change. She was progressing.
From what everyone else is telling me, and I can only go by from what everyone's telling me.
Right.
That she had slowed down. She had gained her weight. She was more herself again. She was happy and funny, and the Kimberly we all love, you know?
And she was fighting the demons that she was facing with faith.
Yeah, and she was, and you know what? She was fighting them demons down there by her damn self. I mean, by herself. She was down there fighting them, and it's in her face every day. It wasn't like she got up and left. She fought them every day. And it was in her face. I know that my child struggled. I know that in her heart she was a good person. I know in her heart she asked for forgiveness. So I know that she's in a better place right now. It hurts that she's gone, but I know she's in a better place.
I agree with you. She's in a better place than us at this point. Because without her is unbearable.
Yeah.
The last day of Kimberly's life, she was on the street, but she walked up to her uncle's. She called her uncle, and she went over there, right?
The where her uncle lives and where she died.
Yeah.
My uncle can just look out his door and see where she died. And I don't really know what happened in between those hours. I don't know where she was or who she's seen or who's seen her. That's the last I know of Kimberly.
But in
And
the
that's a good.
please.
My baby, all I do know is when she was shot, people come out on the street and some man held her hand. I don't know what she said. I don't know if she cried for me. I don't know. And that's the problem. I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know the last few hours of her life and why she was taken from us. And people have the answers and won't give them. And I'm destroyed. I'm completely destroyed. My family is destroyed. And it wasn't his life to take, it was God's. It wasn't her time to go. God didn't want her to go. I don't believe that.
No, but
and this could happen to any of those people if they do. I mean, don't anyone realize that they're letting this man walk free?
Right.
To do this again.
Right. On Kimberly's last day, she was struggling. Still, although her convictions were growing because of her amount of faith inside that was growing, she was watering that seed of faith. She admitted that she had some struggles, and she went over to her uncle's house and asked to pray the sinner's prayer and for prayer, right?
Yeah.
So just moments before her life was taken, Kimberly gave her life to Christ.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something significant. God knew. He knows her heart and he knows us. He created a place in each and every one of us that only he can fill the void. So just moments after leaving her uncle's, where she prayed that prayer and offered her life to the Lord, it was just 10, 15 minutes later, she was walking down the street, maybe less, where she was slain down. Is that accurate?
No. It was about 2 hours in between. About 2 hours. But even then,
right.
You know, I mean, she's struggling.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she wasn't doing things that she wasn't supposed to be doing.
Right.
I'm not saying that. But I know that she had a light in her that she knew that she wanted to change it. And she was making those steps, even though they were small baby steps, they were steps.
Right.
You know, who knows? She'd probably be home right now if he hadn't taken her from us.
And she would have been with her husband?
Well, with her child, with her grandmother, with myself. And we'll never know if that was a possibility now. We'll never get the chance for her to redeem herself and you know, she did with the Lord, but when you're on the drugs and when you're on the street, you don't have the chance to come back and apologize and say, I'm sorry. Right. You know, now she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that now. She doesn't, we don't have that. We have a whole, that's missing. Like, that's just completely missing. I thought we lost her before, like the 5 years that she was on the streets. I thought we had lost her.
Yeah.
We didn't. There was always hope that she was going to come home. And now we have lost her.
completely lost her. And it's not fair. It's not right that this man can walk the streets and live a day and breathe air that free air, knowing that my baby can't ever have the next day. She doesn't have a next moment. She doesn't have, her pictures stop at 27 years old. They will never get older. She'll never be able to speak another word. And it's not fair. And it's not right. And I don't understand why people wouldn't want to justify this.
Well, somebody knows. And somebody needs to step up, and they need to collect their reward. They need to give closure to the family. As we draw to an end here, okay, I want to take a different step, because everybody's pointing the finger at parents these days. But our world's shut down, and parents need to find a way to continue to go. And they're being blamed for the actions of their children. What do you feel about that? I mean, children are going to make decisions on their own, aren't they?
They are. Now, will I say in Kimberly's case, a lot of things could have been done differently? Absolutely. That's another thing I'll have to bear myself, is what I could have, should have did.
Yeah. So
ultimately, everyone that's why God give you choice. You know, He give you choice. You choose the path you want to ride down. You know.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not exactly. It's easier to fall off than it is to stay climbing and try to get past all the craziness in this world. You know.
Yeah.
Blaming a mom, blaming a dad, even blaming yourself. I mean, you do that enough, you know?
Yeah.
The outside world don't need to blame the person that
It's not time to point the finger. It's time to get resolution.
Right. That's what I'm getting to. It's not time to point the finger, because, you know, I blame myself. Her father probably blames himself. My mother probably blames herself. Anyone that was close to her feels some kind of guilt because we couldn't save her. We could, half the time we couldn't even save ourselves.
And the system, if you will, also failed. You know, everything is interconnected. So we've addressed.
Fact is,
yeah,
the poor. You know, the poor people. It's not black or white. It's not gray. It's basically, man. If you're poor, you're that's what they expect from you. You know. Right. Anyone that goes down Parsons Avenue, and I've been a victim of this myself, walking down Parsons Avenue and people yell at you, calling you names, and you're not even on drugs at the time, you know, or doing things that you shouldn't be doing because you're poor and you're in that neighborhood. There's nowhere to go. There's no system, and it should start in school. Like, this is how people live. This is what we should be doing. We should be teaching our kids some self-esteem and teach it, because, you know, they got mom and dad at home that aren't perfect.
Right.
You know, they don't. There's nothing that says, "Hey, you're worthy. You're worth something." Out there that these little kids don't have no other choice but to be who they are. You know, that's what they know.
I do know.
There's nothing else out there for them. They don't know any better.
Parsons in the west side.
You know,
and the east side.
I was 17 years old when I got pregnant. And I was a kid myself. I was a kid trying to raise a kid. So kids that raise kids make mistakes. Plenty of them. And there was nowhere to go to learn how not to make these mistakes. You know, they just assume you say, hey, this is you and you got to take care of it. And people need that help out there, and there's nothing I know of.
Right.
And if they are, the resources are so scarce that just a few people get it.
Right.
You know?
And to do justice is to love kindness. And perhaps the more justice our society has, seeing it as kindness, the less charity we need. We need to be one. That's what that means, right?
Right.
And we need to stop blaming and pointing the finger at individuals when the entire system is failing us as individuals, or those who are suffering and in need.
Right.
Just as Kimberly was. Just as everybody else around Parsons walking that block, or the west side, the hilltop, and the bottoms, wherever you are in the Linden area or this little planet. See, what people don't realize is this is nothing new. It's just a continued pattern in our society, and we're not getting change. So that's why we're bringing things into the light, right, Melinda?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're advocating for justice while creating awareness in numerous different facets. And that's why it's important to not just run a damn story like the mainstream media. It's important to get the voice of the people, because there are lessons to be learned in every failure and in every success.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up a couple statements from people that know Kimberly, okay?
Okay.
It says, Kim used to sing at the concerts at Barry Middle School. Rest in heaven, Kimberly. Thank you. And another individual said she was a great singer. Another individual said she has a beautiful voice. Well, I guarantee you this, Mom. Right now, she's singing hymns in heaven. And she's
Definitely is.
She's at peace. So let's say what other people are saying in the community.
Okay.
Community is scared to say anything, and they need to be standing up. This is community members saying it, the same thing that you're saying, advocating for others to utilize their voice in the pursuit of justice and creating peace for families that are hurt. There's a hashtag out there that has been created, and it's Justice for Kimbo, Kimbo. Tell us about Kimbo. What's up with that?
When she was a bigger kid when she was little, and Kimbo Slice came out, and her name was Kimberly, and all of a sudden everyone just called her Kimbo. That was Kimbo. It just fit her. She was just a character, you know. She was something. Like even the saddest part of I can always find something crazy she did that was just outlandish and funny, and just she was just joyful, you know. She was a joyful person. She was Kimbo Slice, you know. Like when she was 3-4 years old, she would just get out and she would rap. You know, just little chubby little white kid out there just, you know, rapping and just she was just a funny, sweet, and she just wanted to be like, she just wanted to be loved. She did. She just craved that attention, and she's just Kimbo. You know, I don't know how to explain her. She's just Kimbo.
That's awesome. Let's go through your candlelight, okay? And honestly, it's an honor to speak with you and about your family, about your daughter. Your love beyond measure. So I want to thank you for your courage. You know,
that's what I keep saying to myself. Just be brave, be strong, and do it for Kimbo. That's my thing. That's my motto for life right now. Just be brave, be strong, and do it for Kimbo. Because I can't fall apart, not until there's justice.
You stay strong for the baby and have hope and hold it tight.
Yeah.
And walk in faith, just like your daughter. You know, I want to ask, what would you like to say to other parents that are experiencing these difficulties, or they're at a fragile stage to where they could potentially redirect their family? How could they do that? What would you like to say to the parents out there and to the children? Start with the parents.
Let me tell you. I've said this a million times. The street does not love you. Those drugs do not love you. The people who give you drugs do not love you. It's a man. If you're a parent and you see that they're heading in that direction, get them into help immediately. Don't wait till it becomes a huge problem. Do it immediately. You know, and if you've slipped and you've missed it, don't stop loving them. Don't give up on them, because there's hope that they'll be all right. You know?
Yeah.
There is. Um, parent parents don't know what they're doing. I mean, really, we're human beings that take things day by day. But the best thing that you can do to keep from being in this situation is get your children out, love them, and let them know they are loved.
Period.
And tough love is love, whether you like it or not. Put them in rehab. Take them away from that situation with from their friends and the people that are giving them the influences to do drugs and drink and party. And yeah, tough love is not bad love.
No.
Sometimes it's needed. You
In
know,
fact,
that's my advice.
An ancient proverb says that open rebuke is the truest sign of love. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're asking that parents be mindful and think deeper about the ways that they're relating with their children. If you see something going on, just love them deeper. Don't turn your back. Love them deeper. At the same time, it's not the parents' fault that children, if you want to call them that, we got 12-year-olds walking around with guns shooting people now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not parents' fault that children have free will. And they are going to choose that path no matter how hard it is for the parent to endure. It doesn't matter if you come from a good family or a bad family. When hopelessness sets in, turmoil is on the way. Well, you had a candlelight. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. For kids in our neighborhood
There you go.
to follow down that path because that's the path that has come before them. You know, it's not like these are the 12-year-olds are not college kids that are, these are not those people. These people have lived in the mud, the dirt, has struggled their whole life. And the only way they know how to get up out the mud and out the dirt is to grab a gun and a sack. That's what they know.
And that's hard for people to believe. That's hard for people to conceive. When you grow up around the street, you automatically get dirty, But addiction, struggling, that's not limited to the west side, or the south side, or the east side, or north. That
addiction happens everywhere. And to any family. I'll say that. But the violence and the things of that nature usually comes from the kids who have nothing else. I mean, I think that the guy that killed my kid is a completely evil person.
Right.
Probably not. But he also has learned from an early age, had to have learned from an early age that you can't leave a witness and you got to sell that sack and you got to, that's what you've learned. That's what these kids learn on the streets in our neighborhoods. That's the problem we have. We don't have the programs to keep these kids from falling through that cracks. We don't have anybody that we can look up to and say, oh, this is who got out of this situation, or this is how you get out of this situation. What you got is somebody that has money on the corner and they know they want that money. They know that they're starving to death. They want that. And they want that clout. They want that. That's what they know.
Want that clout,
and they
want that coitus.
Yeah.
They want that money.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Quick fame. I'm with you. I'm totally with you. We're drawing to an end here.
Yeah.
And you had a candlelight for Kimberly, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I didn't want it to be an excuse for people to come out and drink and pour bottles and things of that nature, because a lot of candlelights, that's how they turn out, I came mostly because I wanted to tell the little kids I know out there I want them to be able to say their goodbyes to Kimberly, to honor, tell stories, those things. And I wanted to tell the kids I know out there that if they ain't got nobody else in this world, they got me.
Yeah.
If they need to get off dope and they need to get off the streets, there's somebody out there who's going to help them. just they have to seek it. You know, it's hard to find out there sometimes because there isn't enough, but they can find it if they seek it.
Yeah.
Um,
Seek and you shall find.
I just wanted to make. I don't want this to happen to another mother.
Right.
I wanted Kimberly's death to at least be a wake up call to some of these kids. These kids I love. These kids that I know aren't bad kids. They're just a part of this system that's failed them,
Right.
basically. Um, and that's what the candlelight mostly was for. And then too, because we had a balloon launch as well. I wanted my grandson to see all the balloons and all the people that loved his mother. That she wasn't a bad person. Because how could somebody be loved that much to be a bad person? And that's what I wanted from that.
Beautiful. You said that on the day of the candle lighting, you were too broken to get your message out.
Yeah,
So why don't you get that message out now, Mom?
I'm still broken.
I know.
My message is basically go home, love yourself, love yourself enough, love your family enough to get yourself out, get up out of that mess, man. Because as easily as my baby was shot down in the street, they could be as easily as my friend was left in a house, abandoned house, and they found him weeks later of a drug overdose. It could happen to them. Go home, seek God, seek help, and I love them. They're loved out here. They are. They're loved. That's my message.
That you're loved. Go home. Make a change.
Yeah,
The streets
yeah.
don't love you, but your family
Streets
does.
don't love you.
Your friends care, and that there's always hope.
Yeah.
I know this
Before we
isn't easy.
go, I'm going to plead one more time, man. I know that people are afraid of retaliation. I get that. But also know that you're letting this person just walk free to retaliate. If you get him off the street, you know who he is. Don't be afraid. If it's not for the love of my daughter or myself, love for your neighborhood and love for your own family, this person does not deserve to walk the street. He deserves to spend the rest of his life in the penitentiary. I don't want to see him dead. I want justice. I don't want revenge. I want justice. And that's basically the last thing I need to say. Just please come forward.
Come forward. Use your voice. The
Yeah.
family is begging for an opportunity to heal. And it's potentially the situation is attached to another homicide. And some people on the street level have said that it was a mistaken in identity. Now, if you know it was a mistaken in identity, you know damn well who did it. So we're asking
That's
that the
my
wolf
thought.
pack steps up. We protect the family, viciously protect that family. And we send abundant blessings, peace, and prayers to you as well. Our deepest condolences, Melinda. I'm broken with you. So this is an attempt to have justice be glorified for the family. And Melinda, I want to thank you for your courage. I want to thank you for leading the way and being a real mama duck. Okay? Crossing that street when no one else will and being fearless. I want you to see this, okay?
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, look, someone said this, and I think it's important that you hear this, okay? You did not fail, mama. You got it? You understand that? We want justice. We want it now.
I want justice.
It's Step forward for the family. Do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly. Together, our potential is limitless. Love one another. Know thyself and love thy neighbor. This is Kimberly. She was beautiful.
God.
She was loved.
Yeah, she definitely was.
Kimberly Marcum. We've run the video once. We're not going to run it again. You know what we want? A mother wants closure. A family wants justice. And so does her baby. So does her child. If you know something, step up and say something. There's a cash reward out there in Crime Stoppers. But more than anything, be the change that you want to see in this world. No such thing as perfect people. But there are perfect intentions and perfect actions. So be the change that you want to see in the world. You know, we love you very, very much. Is there anything else that you want to say at the end of this? Please, this is your opportunity.
Just that we miss her. We miss her so much. And the only way we're going to get any peace is if someone comes forward and helps us. Because with this being unanswered, it's like ripping a scab off every single day. It will not heal. And that's all I need to say. If somebody out there has the heart to see this and help us, I know they do.
Well, today is an opportunity that you were given to share your voice in hopes that it creates ripple effects in the hearts of other people. Step up and say something. I love you, Melinda. Together we're limitless.
I'm